It's a very intimate. Okay.
It's pretty mixed. We have a lot of people that join online as well, so it varies on the days.
Yeah, we do have a decent amount of people online actually. So yeah. Hello everyone. Thank you for those who have come in person and for those who are here online. We've got a really awesome speaker today from Southern California Edison, Monica Raffety. She's a senior manager and has tons of connections throughout the company. And if you're interested in a career supporting technology or renewable energy, this is the person to talk to. So we've got a kind of split 50-50 presentation and then um, Q&A session slash panel for you today. So please make sure, take the time to come up with your questions, write them down, take a note on your computer, save them up throughout the presentation, and then make sure to ask them and connect with her afterwards. She has, you've done kind of professor for a day before here at Cal Poly, right? Oh, awesome. So Monica is a Cal Poly alum, so she is really here. Yeah, go Broncos. She's here to support you all. I highly recommend taking advantage. And then for those who are here in person, pizza is coming. It is a little bit late. I will scold my vice president later, but yeah, we don't want to deny you that as well. With regards to announcements, I do see a couple of new faces, so thank you for those who are joining us for the first time. If you are interested in keeping up with the club, we have our Discord QR code and our Linktree QR codes. Please make sure to scan those and just follow us on those platforms. That's how you'll keep up and keep informed of cool events such as this. So yeah. We do have an announcement that I forgot to put up on here. But we do have an opportunity for a leadership role opening up within the club. Our treasurer, Michael, has unfortunately realized that I'm working him too hard, cracking the whip a little bit too much, unfortunately, and I burned him out. So we're going to try not to do that with the future treasurer, but we are searching for someone to fill that leadership role. So if you are interested in managing club finances and finding ways to strategically use club funds to advance cybersecurity education opportunities here at Cal Poly, we would love to hear from you. We will have the opportunity for a brief presentation, one slide, and a brief speech, 5 minutes max. At some point, I'm thinking November 18th on that Tuesday at U hour for an election. So if you are interested, please make sure you DM either myself or the Vice President Alexander Alexander Liang. And yeah, please feel free to hang out after if you have any questions regarding that. And then with that, we'll go ahead and I'll pass it over to Monica.
And then somebody will be watching like the Zoom, right? That's what you were saying? Okay. I remember this guy. So this is like you throw it at people and you guys catch it and talk to it. Is that how it works? Okay. Well, I tend to talk pretty loud. So first of all, thank you very much to Caleb and to Stephen for inviting me to come speak to you for the forensic and security team. Or what's the T for? Technology? Technology. I should know that, right? Fast team. So I had the pleasure of meeting Caleb at one of our ISACA events that was actually held at the Kellogg Center. So when he talks to you about, when he talks to you about volunteering, whether it's a treasurer or any leadership position, I highly encourage you to do it. When you see my journey, one of the things that I did leave out, it's because of my volunteerism. So I volunteered for the Institute of Internal Auditors. That helped me get a job into healthcare, which I was not in previously. So I highly encourage you, don't pass on those opportunities. Volunteer because one, it looks good on your resume. Two, it really shows your ability to work well with others and your collaborative experience. And plus, it's something that you're going to see as I go through my journey. You never thought that you needed it for where you want to go, but it actually does help you in the long run. Okay. So, do I need to be holding this all the time?
I'm thinking if you just leave it.
Just leave it there? Okay, good. So the topic of today is cybersecurity, building my skill stack, one unexpected adventure at a time. Now, I do have to do a plug. Well, first I'll talk about me. So as you know, my name's Monica Raffety. What you see here is the LinkedIn QR code. I recommend that you guys scan, right? Scan it, add me to your network. I may not remember who you are, but if you personalize the invitation or you want to follow me, just say I'm followed by your name. I met you at the FAST meeting on October 28th, and I'm interested in connecting with you. Number one, it does two things. It gives you access to my network, which is pretty large. And at the same time, if you have any questions that I haven't answered here, or sometimes you're just like, hey, I'm just curious, what's out there? Who can I talk to? Who I can connect with? I'm usually pretty good about responding. The only time I don't respond is if I perceive it as a sales pitch, because I get quite a lot of those throughout the day. As Kayla mentioned, I am an alumna of Cal Poly Pomona. I'm a certified internal auditor, and I'm also a certified healthcare compliance professional. Hi, Michael. So I've been in IT for almost 20 years. I've led large-scale projects, multidisciplinary teams across financial services, healthcare, and utility sectors. So when I'm talking about multidisciplinary teams, I'm talking about onshore, offshore, nearshore, next door, in front of me, behind, everywhere, right? It's all across multiple time zones, all different backgrounds, skills, experience, and so forth. I thrive on navigating complex environments, and you're going to see that as we go through, driving change and building effective partnerships at every level. So as a senior manager for identity, access, and security management, I specialize in designing secure systems, specifically around identity security, driving operational efficiency, and ensuring regulatory compliance. Raise your hands for those of you that know about SOX or internal controls over financial reporting. How about COSO framework? You don't have a clue. All right, I'm going to leave you with 3 letters. OFC, operational, financial, compliance. Okay? OFC, operational, financial, compliance. So if you look at what am I saying? Designing secure systems around identity security, driving operational efficiency, there's your O, and ensuring regulatory compliance, there's your C. Okay? I'm passionate about resourceful problem solving, collaborative leadership, continuous improvement. My technical focus includes almost everything within the identity management space, and then vulnerability management and compliance. So I have also an internal audit and SOX background, as well as accounting. So you're going to see how all that fits in. And I believe that success in cybersecurity, as in life, right, it all comes from working together, embracing challenges, and continuously learning from every experience. So think about everything that you're doing here at Cal Poly and what you do outside of Cal Poly. All of those are foundational building blocks. So there's nothing that you've done that you should walk away saying, well, I don't know why I learned that, or I don't know why I took that class, or that was dumb. Why did I take art? Or why did I take music? Or why did I take French or Spanish or whatever it is, right? I guarantee you everything that you're learning is going to help you. And I'm really excited about sharing my story, and hopefully I get to inspire you to chart your own unique path in this dynamic field. Okay, so I don't have a traditional background. So you're going to think that, oh, I have my degree in computer engineering. I don't. Computer information systems. Nope. Cybersecurity, not even close. So you're going to hear about that as we go through here. Now, a little plug about SCE. You could see facts at a glance, right? We've been around over 100-something years. We're a really old company. And fun fact, how many of you guys have heard of the Huntington Library? Did you know that Mr. Huntington was kind of like the precursor for SCE? He sold his company to Southern California Edison. So one of the fun facts that I found out about working at SCE is I get to go in free. Why? Because it's a corporate partnership. So I learned that about a couple of years ago, and I was like, wow, that's really nice. So if you think about the history and the evolution of electricity and the utilities, this is a great way. Core earnings, $1.9 billion, right? Operating revenue, $17.6 billion. Workforce, these are employees, but we also have contractors and supplemental workers. So if you aggregate the two, we're close to about 30,000 strong. So it's a pretty decent sized company. It's not very small, but it's pretty decent size. And you can see our capital investment is about $6 billion. So every 3 years, we present to the California Public Utilities Commission what our general rate case is going to be. So how many of you guys heard of that lovely 13% hike in your electricity bills? Or your parents might have, right? So a lot of that is driven by the investments that we're trying to make into modernizing our grid. So as you know, right, every time you're building a new, an urban development or you're putting a new commercial center, guess what? You need electricity. And then the mandates, right? You're going to hear things about pathway to 2045. It's we're going to try to move more towards electrification. So the more needs there are, right? You have to make sure that you've got your engineers that are helping you plan that, hence the investment back into your capitals. Giving back $20 million. And we have two companies, Southern California Edison, which most of you have already heard. There's a little background on there. Our headquarters are in Rosemead, California. How many of you knew that we are also here in Pomona? Where? Where are we next to? Right across the street, next to the what? The brewery, right? So if you think of beer, I'm like beer, SCE, good combo, right? No. But anyways, we do have a very large presence there. You'll see a lot of staff, a lot of our transmission and distribution people work there. And then you'll also hear things like, some large capital projects. There's a lot of people there. So we're spread through most of California, but our headquarters are in Rosemead. And then you have Trio, formerly Edison Energy and affiliated company. So this is another organization, to help meet our strategic, financial, and sustainability goals. Yes, Michael. Yes, there are some too. So you'll also hear things like Edison International Company. Usually like so Pedro, who's our CEO. He's also the CEO and president of the Edison International. And then our immediate president is Steve. And so it is a pretty large organization. We are spread throughout. We also had a presence, like for example, Song. So the nuclear, many of you guys knew about the nuclear thing out in, yeah. So it's decommissioned, but it's still out there. So we had a presence as well. So we're really looking at sustainable energy. In the world that we live in today, you wouldn't think that a utility company is highly IT focused. But as you realize, right, as we move through things, you can't help but be IT focused. And Southern California Edison has a broad range of generations that work there. So you have recent college graduates and you have people that are probably your parents' age or older, right? And it's because they're excited about the work they do. I'm really excited about the work I do because I think about the opportunities that I got. It's awesome. And I'm grateful for every day that I'm there. Are there any questions so far before I keep going? No? So I want you to look up here to see what is it that we do. So my team, right, I lead a team of about anywhere between 90 to 100 people. That's quite a lot. My immediate team, my SCE employee team, we're about 8 total. So myself as the senior, I have a manager that reports into me, and then I have various senior advisors and quality advisors. And then within that group, we deal with what's called a managed service provider. So that managed service provider are the people that work like in India, Canada, Mexico, throughout the US, and they either augment the work that we do or they actually perform the work on our behalf. So we think of them as one, you'll hear one SCE, one IT. There's 4 strategic pillars that I focus on, and these are deliberate, okay? Number 1, enhance user experience. Whatever tool you put out there, whether you as the IT department or you as a consumer, you want it to be what? Easy to use. You want people to actually use it, because if they don't use it, guess what? The money you invested in it was probably not well spent, right? So here's your finance tie. Then we have improved operational efficiency. We have a mandate now that it's always AI first. Now, AI first, who can tell me, what does that mean to you when somebody says AI first? Yes.
If a problem can be solved, with AI very reliably and solved with AI.
Okay, but what does that mean though? Like how? How would you actually put that into practice?
The few ways of doing it, you can integrate these models directly into the solution if need be. Say your task is literally some sort of basic linguistic task or basic sort of action task that can be easily automated with modern models. That would be one way. Second way would be to, if you do find a problem that's a little bit harder, let's say they not solve it, you'd first feed it into an assistant and then manually check everything, save time.
Awesome. Anybody else want to supplement his response? Do you guys even care about AI? I see some nods. Why is it important? Oh, okay, besides it's new, but yes, it's new. What else?
saying now they're going to want to use AI in their processes.
Right, they want to use AI in their processes. So at work, we use Copilot. Okay, so primarily a Microsoft shop. Now, in using Copilot, you'll always hear people tell you, it's Copilot, not autopilot. Why do you think they say that?
Well,
Oh, let me put a hand.
Yeah,
Yes, go ahead.
because it's something that you should work with,
Mhm.
you know, not something that should just like do everything like, you know, for you. It's sort of an integrated system. And kind of to your previous question, like, you know, why
Mhm.
AI? It is a tool that in ways that something like a calculator can enhance our capabilities and allow us to do things faster and do more things that we couldn't before because of the like abilities of these models.
Absolutely. Should people be scared of AI?
maybe in certain, in scenarios.
Why?
Well, I mean, it's very efficient and the things it's efficient. You can train an AI model to penetrate like other systems, and once it becomes efficient and bad, then that's kind of scary.
It already has.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's already many things that AI can do a lot faster than humans and a lot faster than we can stop AI from doing.
Right, and I'll go to you and then I'll go back here. Yes.
Another thing to be scared of is, misapplication of AI as well.
Yeah.
Not necessarily malicious application, but application by folks who either don't use the right models, don't prompt the right, don't put in a sandbox environment to where these mistakes can cause very real damage in the world. No human would make these mistakes, but we're dealing with language models and matrices here. We could very easily end up with an AI model making mistakes and say it's making fun decision on some consumer, whether they get state insurance or not, and makes a lot of tragic effect. So that could really be a big reason to be scared of it. People not applying it correctly, not understanding the technology at hand at a low level.
And you in the back, Mr. Cove. So on that, I'm just gonna put a pause right there because that is a very real fear, right? It can come for your job. So when we hear from our leadership, AI first, automation, people are like, oh my God, I'm gonna be without a job. And then I said, well, that depends, right? So here's another trick. If anybody asks you a question, a smart response is, it depends, right? Because it really does. It depends on the context and whatnot. With my team, what I try to tell them is, the human factor of the soft skills, the critical thinking, the building relationships, that's not changing anytime soon. Now, could it? I mean, yeah, I have no doubt that these tools could eventually evolve to that. But for right now, that's what I call your superpower. Okay. AI, I think of it as an information equalizer. It democratizes the ability to get information. Whereas in the past, like let's say you wanted information on something, you would have to subscribe to many different, let's say, magazines or newsletters, and or only people in different institutions had access to that kind of information. But let's say somebody at a Cal State system might not have it, right? Now you have access to that information. Now, it doesn't mean that you're going to use it 100%. But at least what it does is it's able to cull all those resources, right? And depending on how you ask the questions, it now starts giving you a different way of thinking. So always take advantage of the fact that you're human first, right? You always work on your people skills, your relationship skills. And that's why when I talk with the students, it's very, how can I put it? It can be very scary to stand in front of people and talk. Right? When I first started doing this, like I did it just for fun, my heart would be beating like crazy. My hands would be sweating. I'd be like sweating. I'm like, oh my God, I can't do it. I can't do it. And I had like 50 eyeballs staring at me. And I was like, okay, how am I going to get through this? Right. And I realized, okay, do a little bit at a time, little bit at a time. And then all of a sudden it's like, it felt fun because guess what? People do business with people they like. At the end of the day. And you're going to hear the common thread wherever you work, it's communication. Right? Until these AIs know how to talk to humans. I mean, I'm sure they do, but right now that's what's going to help you. So don't be afraid of AI. Don't be afraid of automation. Instead, figure out how can you use it to support the work that you're doing and make life easier. The person that moves ahead is a person that's able to basically put themselves out of a job. So think about it today. Like if today I'm Miss Widget person, right? perform a task, I close a ticket, I move on, right? I'm bored. I'm like, close the ticket, close the ticket. Okay, these people don't answer, right? Chasing them down. Why? I want to be able to do something fun. Now, if I can create a tool, an application, or some type of automation that does it for me, then it frees up my time and my skills to do something what? Better, more fun, right? Something that I actually enjoy doing. So like if I enjoy doing research, I'm going to have more time to do it if I find something else to do what I'm doing now, right? Now, the flip side is because it's making your work easier, right? So improving operational efficiency, you're going to get what? Thrown more stuff at you, right? So we're at the time right now where it's like, okay, if you have, for example, my team, I told you 7 people plus me, it's 8, right? If somebody leaves, I'll get asked the question of, do you really need to backfill for that position? Is it critical? Can you do more with what you've got? And I've seen my team shrink through the years, and we kept plugging right along because we look at those things as opportunities to apply our thinking skills to do something different. Now, reduce cybersecurity risk, that's near and dear to all of us, right? So you hear things like zero trust, now non-human identities, how do we manage them? Passwordless MFA, or you hear MFA, right? The two-factor authentication. Should you be using SMS text? The answer is no. Do you want to use security questions? No. You talk about the tools that are out there. We happen to use Okta, so we're very heavy Okta shop. And we work closely with, for example, our cybersecurity operations centers because they're doing the identity and let's say the threat hunting, right? And they'll be like, okay, can you apply policies in your tools that help us prevent to do A, B, C, D, right? When they talk to us before we say yes, we're like, well, help me understand. What's the problem you're trying to solve? Why do you need to do it? How many people will it apply to? What's the operational impact? So all these questions that I'm asking of you guys or putting out here to you, it's kind of saying it's an impact assessment. So before you do anything, the magic question is, why? And when they tell you the answer, you're going to learn this. And if you didn't take your audit classes, why again? How many times do you ask why? Forever, but what's the minimum number? I heard somebody say it. 5. Why? Why is it 5? Kind of, but you're also trying to get to the root cause. So when cybersecurity asks me, Monica, I need you to implement, a network policy that restricts the ability for people to do something dumb. I always ask, why? What are you trying to solve for? Is this a one-time incident? Do you see a systemic pattern of this happening? How did you get your intel, right? And so they have to be able to tell you, okay, what is it that they're seeing? And then my team as the identity access and security management, we need to work closely with them to say, okay, well, what can we do to improve it? Is it going to be a what? A preventive control? What's a preventive control, by the way? What's the definition of preventive? Stopping before it happens. What's the definition of a detective control? Finding out what happened, right? So all those things that you're learning in either audit, accounting, or anything else, all of these things fit. The last one is ensuring regulatory compliance. This is what my team does. Okay. You're going to be like, oh, shouldn't it do more? Probably. I didn't put everything on here. But just to give you an idea, the program is up here, and I deliberately call us a program. Okay, we're a small and mighty team. You're going to get the slides, by the way. So, and it's anchored by engineering services and compliance and governance. What the heck is engineering services? What do you think that means? Think it's a civil engineer, mechanical engineer? Go ahead.
The people actually build the systems.
Build the systems. What else?
Maintain.
Maintain the systems. Great. So when we talk, yes. Applications that we need to do the work right. So if you think about, we have an application, and then there's one pillar in here. So if we have an application, which one of these pillars do we also need to pay very close attention to? Because if we don't do it often, we can introduce bad things. Vulnerability management. Why?
Okay, these new applications, and there's also more opportunities for vulnerability service.
Vulnerabilities, right? Or threats. So you guys have heard of the CVE, right? So we get those alerts. We also know that the applications have a patching cycle, right? So the operating system, application layer, and so forth. So you look at the patching cycles for each of your applications. You work closely with the vendors, and then before you patch something, right? So think of it this way. I have an application, we're gonna call it, I don't know, Monica application. So I have the application. I get an alert that says, hey, somebody, try to break and do bad things to Monica's application. I'm gonna say, great, I'm gonna patch it. But I already told you that we had like about 30,000 people in our organization. What do I need to do in order to patch an application? Just it's a wild guess. There's no wrong answer.
That's it before you have to make sure them break.
So test it and before you do it. But guess what you have to do? You have to take the system down, right? So when you take the system down, in IT, we're like, it's no big deal. But your business people are gonna be like, wait, stop, don't do it. So what happens when they tell you, wait, stop, don't do it? What can happen? That's when the vulnerability stays there, right? So we're we call it the chicken and the egg kind of thing, right? Because they tell us we have to fix it. We try to go and fix it. Then the business tells us, no, you can't do it because we need the system up and running for whatever. So then it's a give and take, right? So if it's a give and take, remember I talked to you about operations, finance, and compliance, right? What do we have to take into account when we take something up or down? It's the R word, risk. You guys have heard of risk, right? I'm not telling you guys nothing new, right? So you have to assess the risk. So impact assessment operationally, what happens to the system, taking it up or down, all that impact. But then it's like, you have to ask yourself, is this something we can live with? Does it have to be fixed like today? Or can it wait a little bit, right? So your cybersecurity people, they tell you, hey, somebody try to come into our house. We need you to, shut the doors and shut the windows and turn on all the alarms and stuff. We're like, great. But then they work with all the operational units to determine what is the impact, right? Because, it's easy for us to say, yeah, we'll just take it out. Who cares, right? And they're gonna be like, no, you can't, right? So SCE has something called the Public Safety Power Shutoff, or the PSPS events. That happens when there's usually adverse weather conditions or fires or whatnot. So think about it. If you take a critical application down and you've got these potentially adverse weather events, what can go wrong? A lot of stuff, right? So you have to balance all these things. And then the last thing I was talking about, like the compliance. So the compliance and governance, we're subject to SOX controls because we're publicly traded, right? And how many of you guys heard of ITGCs? Who can tell me what an ITGC is? Or even what the letters mean? General Computing Controls. Okay, close enough. What's an example of an ITGC? Think of the world that I live in. I'm in identity and access management. I'm going to call on you because you look very interested. Yes. You, no, the gentleman in the back. Me? Yes, you. What's an example of an ITGC control? Think about what I do, identity, access, and security management. I deal with identities and I deal with users. Okay, I'll phrase it a little bit differently. How do I ensure that the person has the right access at the right time to do the right things with the least amount of privilege?
Sorry, like the account types.
Okay, account types, but it has the word review in it. Did I stump you guys? Okay, user access review. So user access review, provisioning and deprovisioning, right? Or if you think about, how many of you guys heard of the word CRUD? What is CRUD? No, CRUD, CRUD. What is CRUD? Go ahead. Nope. Bingo. You get the pizza. So yeah, that's what it is, right? So you want to make sure that you're reviewing the user's access, because in reviewing the user's access, what can it do? It can prevent what? People from doing malicious things, right? Okay. Are you guys good with what I do? Yes.
Yeah. Well, maybe I'll say it.
No, you can ask.
Sounds like you are balancing or trying to find the medium between the risk tolerance and the risk appetite that the CE has. And it's like, that's like the.
So it does take into account the risk tolerance, the risk appetite. And you guys know that, the landscape changes daily, right? Think of it, whatever you learned, by the time you graduate, probably a lot of the stuff is going to be obsolete, right? So when you're approaching your classes, don't think of it as like, oh my God, I learned this. And it's like, I can't even apply it anywhere. It's not true. What you can always apply is your ability to think critically, right? So take advantage of those opportunities. So now I'm going to get into my journey. How are we doing on time? Because I know I needed like a little break. We're at 12:30. Okay. So this is my journey. The first place I got to was, I thought I wanted to teach. I like kids like me, but this was when I was 18 years old. Okay. But even before then, I went to Cal Poly Pomona and I started out as, what do you think I started out as? As an engineering major, believe it or not, as a civil engineering major specifically. I was 17 years old when I started at Cal Poly Pomona. It was a big mistake to pick civil engineering. I don't know what I was thinking. I thought I could do math. I thought I could do this stuff. I was not prepared. I think I was one of the few women in that major, couldn't navigate. I was like, I don't know what to do. So I flunked out. So I'm just being very real. I flunked out as a civil engineering major. I got like a string of D's and F's. And Cal Poly kindly asked me to, can you leave? I said, okay. Right. I was very depressed, very disappointed. I was like, man, I've never failed in my entire life. I was always a straight A student, honor roll, a California Scholastic Federation, National Honor Society, who's who among the American high school, you name it. I was always a smart kid. At least I thought, right? I got here and it was a crash course in reality because I didn't know how to ask questions. I didn't know how to make connections. I didn't know how to take advantage of people say, hey, if you need my help, come talk to me. I was too scared. I was like, oh my God, they're going to think I'm stupid if I'm asking questions. So I didn't, right? So when I left, I decided to go to Harvard on the Hill. You guys are going to be like, what the heck is that? Rio Hondo College. Okay.
Thank you.
So I went to Rio Hondo College and, I was kind of debating, what was I going to do? I liked teaching because I like sharing knowledge with people, and I like seeing light bulbs go on, across the students' faces. It's something I honestly am truly passionate about. But it's very restrictive because I realized that in teaching, I have to follow a book. I have to follow a methodology. And if I didn't follow it to the letter, I wasn't teaching it right. Even though I knew that my students had different ways of assimilating that information, I couldn't do it, right? So if I was teaching them patterns of how to add, if I was teaching them patterns in how to read, how to spell, they're like, no, Monica, that's not how we do it. And I was like, man, I go, okay, I guess I don't want to do that anymore. So I went to go work at the bank. So I was a bank teller for several years and I was pretty darn good. This was, obviously before well, we still had ATMs, but counting cash by hand, I could like tell the feel of a fake bill just by my fingertips. I could do it. I was counting like $10,000 back then. $10,000 was a lot of money. I was like, this fast is really good, blah, blah, blah. And I was still debating what did I want to do, right? So somebody said, hey, why don't you go take up accounting? And I was like, what's an accounting? I had no idea what accounting was. I just asked, is there math involved? And they're like, yeah. And I go, well, what kind of math? Oh, there's addition, subtraction. I'm like, okay, that's too easy. There's percentages, division. Oh, okay. All right. Took a couple classes and I thought, well, maybe I was still taking physics. I was still taking calculus because I had every intention of coming back as an engineering major. But when I took my first final exam in physics, the college level one, and I could not figure out the coefficient of something about a bullet hitting a block of wood, and it was a take-home exam, I was like, okay, I'm done. That's not for me. Decided to be a math major, but when I found out I had to take physics and chemistry, I was like, okay, nope, scratch that too. So I started on my journey of taking the accounting classes. I did not graduate from Rio Hondo because I got enough credits to transfer back in. So Cal Poly was nice enough to say, hey, we really like you, come on in. So I kept going down my journey of being in accounting. I realized I didn't like any of the accounting classes, like none. The only accounting class I liked was managerial accounting, cost accounting, because it was practical. It was operational in nature because it helped me figure out how things worked. I didn't care about amortization of bonds. I didn't care about taxes. I didn't care about auditing financials. I was like, that was so boring, right? And then they're like, oh, do you want to be a CPA? And I said, well, what does that involve? And then when they told me, I'm like, nope, don't want to be a CPA. I go, I want to do auditing instead. Now, somewhere in that journey about being an auditor, right? I didn't get to audit actually until maybe like about 8 years ago. So it's been a while. but I was able to do various areas of accounting. So I did pharmacy, loans. I was also leading pharmacy data warehouse teams. I actually developed configurations for some of our, what they call it Salesforce now, but back then it was called Siebel. I did a lot of those things. I realized that I love learning how things worked. So when I got laid off from IndyMac, because it, you know, the senator came and he basically said, you guys are horrible because of the subprime. That was back in 2008. I'm like, what the heck am I going to do? So I volunteered for the IIA, and I started just talking to people. And then I was able to get into healthcare to Kaiser Permanente. Okay, so again, I had zero healthcare. Everybody's like, oh, you have to have healthcare experience. I'm like, well, why? You know, they reconcile cash. They have the same accounting. It's like cash is cash is cash is cash. I mean, it's like reconciliation is the same. The difference is the setting and the systems that you use to perform it. But what doesn't change are the principles that you learn, right? Kept doing through that. And then I went and I finally got to do auditing at Blue Shield of California, became a principal auditor. I hated the audits that were like just very like routine, but they gave me one. It was a health effectiveness data information set. And I was responsible for doing from end to end auditing. And I remember asking our chief audit executive, what does that mean? Well, you get to figure out how the system actually gets created, and you fit the data, how it gets created to, and then you figure out where it ends up on, you know, the regulatory reports. And I'm like, what? But it was really good because I got to learn all the application controls, APIs, how they worked, where they stored the code, how do you review code, how do you ensure that it makes sense, then comparing it to the regulatory requirements, right? So all of that stuff, I was like, my brain was on fire. I was like, wow, this is great. Then I got tired of that. And I said, what other industry have I not been in, right? So I'm here, the audit, you can see the debits and credits for accounting. So there was a position, I was a business control senior advisor, and it was doing segregation of duty. Okay. On the surface, it sounds boring as heck, right? I didn't know SAP, like at all. And their SE is primarily a heavy SAP shop. I came from an Oracle shop. Okay. But what didn't change was what? The principles. So if you understand what segregation of duties is, right, you can't have somebody with like their over access or two functions that conflict or two roles that conflict, whatever it is. You apply those principles. It doesn't matter what system it's on. It doesn't matter what tools they use. What matters is, can you apply the principles effectively? So I did that. And then as soon as I got there 3 months later, we went through a reorg. They laid off my principal manager. They laid off our senior manager. And I was like, holy moly. And then I started talking to our CISO and then our SVPs, our CTO. And I made a habit of just introducing myself. I would literally go up and be like, hey, hi, Brian, how are you? My name is Monica and I work at blah, 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 blah. He's like, who the heck is this person? And I'd be like, hey, Todd, how are you? Hey, my name's Monica. Da, 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 da. I'm like, you know what? I don't think you guys know what we do. It's like, well, we haven't convinced you. I'm like, oh, come on down. Come visit us. They came, right? And what I was doing was I was putting a face to the name. I was forcing them to remember who I was, but more importantly, what I do. Okay. So you're going to hear people like, oh, it's who you know, it's who you know. Yeah. Okay. But do people know what you do? Do people know what you do? Do they know that you're the president of FAST? Do people know what you do, that you're the director of logistics? Right? Do people know that you're going to be like a potential finance treasurer, whatever it is, right? And then who's talking about you when you're not in the room? So you start building all the skills. So then I got moved into the identity and access management team. And 3 months later, my boss moved out. And I was like, what? Yeah, and I'm like, so it created a senior manager position. Okay. I've been a senior manager before at all the other institutions I was at. I said, now, do I want a new boss or do I want to be the boss? I'm like, I want to be the boss. Nothing's stopping me. Wrote a kick-ass cover. I'm not allowed to say that. Okay. I wrote a kick-ass cover letter, right? I made it a point that people that were interviewing the panel that they knew who I was, and then I submitted my resume, and I made it like very personable, and I made sure that they knew me, that they knew my personality, that they knew that I liked people, that they knew that I was very resourceful. So it was a development assignment, which means I wasn't getting the title. I would get it like, you know, on my signature, but I wouldn't get to pay for it. So I basically did it, quote unquote, for free, kind of. But they call it a development assignment, but I didn't care because what was more important to me was what? The outcome, right? So I had the bigger target at the end. I was taking little steps to get there. I think there were 17 people that they interviewed. These were existing employees. They chose me. You know, and they said, well, one, it's like, we like your background, we like that you're new, we like that you're unconventional. So all things that people would typically tell you wouldn't work, right? But it does work. And then after 6 months of doing that, my boss got, the one that was my former boss, he got his permanent position as a principal manager. I'm like, okay, well, I want mine too. So I made it a point to talk to the managing director and I said, hey, I've been doing this for 6 months, my track record, I've been able to do all these things, I have my strategy, blah, 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 blah. I said, I think it's time I get promoted, right? I wasn't shy about it. I'm like, give me a promotion. I go, unless you believe that I still have a ways to do it. I got the promotion. Okay, I've been in this role officially for 2 years. I love it, right? But again, I don't have a cybersecurity background, no computer background, no engineering background. But what I do have that I encourage you, all of you to do is to put yourself out there. Make those connections. When people tell you, hey, talk to me, hey, link with me, give me a call. Assume that they do want to help you, right? Assume that first. And people do want to help you and they'll do it. And then I'll give you my parting words. So my GPA when I graduated from Cal Poly, it's a 2.4. Okay. So I always kick myself in the butt because I didn't do well, but I did well in the accounting that when you merged together, they didn't forgive my bad grades in engineering. So they stayed with me. And I know to get a master's or to apply for an MBA, what's the minimum, 2.5? Yeah, so I didn't make the cutoff. So I'm like, okay, do I need another degree? Do I need a master's? Depends. It really does depend. I encourage you to get your certifications, anything through the CompTIA. So if you get a CID, CISA, CIA, you have a CPA, any of those will always help you, but always remember it's the relationships that you build and the connections that you make that are going to help you. And that includes my presentation. And I'm going to give you a slide. Thank you. So you're going to get in your deck the link. So I know right now the PowerPoint, sorry, the PDF doesn't include the active link, but it's edisoncareers.com/early-career/. You're going to get to this page. It gives you the dates. That's just a snapshot of some of the positions. There's 64 positions open. Unfortunately, none of them are in cyber. I checked, but it doesn't hurt. Don't get stuck on you have to be in cyber. Do not get stuck on that. If Southern California Edison is a company you want to work for, you want to make sure that people know your skills are transferable. And I would say that for anything. Okay. Don't get hung up on like people that want to be CPAs or like, I can only work for Deloitte, PwC. But I'm like, no, you can start somewhere else. Right. And think about your journey. It's not, your journey is not always going to be, a vertical. Sometimes it's going to zigzag. Sometimes you have to take a few steps backwards to get to where you want to be. So questions, comments? Was this worth it for you? Yes?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Please feel free, anyone who has any remaining questions,
I'll stick around.
yeah, we can stick around. And then I noticed a lot of people showed up a little bit late. So please, if you wouldn't mind just scanning in real quick to our QR code.
Sure.
Would like that from you.
Sure, that's fine. Thank you.
Yeah, for those who came in late, please take a moment, scan in real quick. We'd really appreciate that. Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, if we have any questions online, please feel free to ask them and we will ask Monica in person. And then for those who are here in person, please feel free. If you have any questions about internship opportunities, if you've looked into any in particular. Okay.
What skills have you found most effective to remediate? Like when you're doing this, or you're they're at the change, make a policy. What skill do you feel helps you the most? You mentioned the why.
The research is asking the why. So always try to get to what's the problem statement. So a lot of your IT folks and anybody who's done like accounting there, their audit, they're very linear, right? You have to be very sequential. But it helps them to hone in. I think to tell them what is it that you're trying to solve. Just ask that. What are you trying to solve?
Because it's probably because something happened.
Exactly.
Don't want the situation to happen again. So you
But But sometimes what can happen is you can make things so restrictive that you prevent somebody from doing their job, which is not effective. So case in point, I don't have a company phone. I use my own device, BYOD. And they're like, but why? You should have a company. I'm like, because I don't want to carry two phones. It's something I'm gonna lose. I go, I'd rather just have one. And they're like, oh, but they're spying on you. And I'm like, what are they gonna spy on? They're not looking at my messages. They're not looking at my emails. Yes, they can capture your IP address and your city, but I'm like, who cares? I mean, honestly, it's like, who cares? It's like, by the nature of where I work, that's fine. But you're gonna have people that they're reluctant to download certain software onto their devices because they're like, oh, I feel like the company's, snooping and they're, my privacy is being invaded, blah, 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 blah. But then I'm like, okay, but you gotta figure out what are the conveniences that you're getting. Number one is I can use my phone, right? I don't have to worry about carrying two things. I still have accessibility, but when you're trying to figure out like the risk, it's continuing to ask, what is the problem you're trying to solve? How did this originate? Have them give you like, how did this come about? Was it because some literature? And then I would even question the reliability of the literature, whether, and by literature, I'm talking about like websites or any of my informational sources. Because let's say Monica Raffety has a cyber intelligence site, right? But mine's a parody account. And let's say my co-pilot picks it up and it's like, oh, Monica Raffety cyber account said it, right? This, it's like you're acting on it, he's acting on it. Nobody bothered to check that mine was a parody account. Okay, but all of a sudden you're acting on something that isn't real. So also ask about the reliability of the information that you're receiving. That's why they tell you, like, if you're using Copilot, ChatGPT, whatever it is, it's like always check. And it's not so much the hallucination, is that you have to learn how to ask the questions in a way that makes sense. And I found that doing it in an iterative approach, so start with one little small ask and then the next one, the next one, the next one. Then when you get to the final one, at the very end, I said, okay, now that you've done all this, create a reusable prompt that I can use for future whatever. And all of a sudden it's like, it does a ta-da! It spits out a beautiful, gorgeous prompt I've ever seen. Right? And I impress the heck out of people because they're like, you did this? And I'm like, yes. But they didn't know that I started asking like some dumb question. And then I just built upon it because I didn't like the result. And then I just kept building and building and building and building. Right? So, yeah. Any questions? Sorry. Any questions?
On the chat.
Yes.
Someone had asked, Ryan had asked, do you need to be in school to intern for Southern California?
Do you need to be in school? I don't know. I can check on that. If you graduated, you should be able to apply. If you have some experience, there are entry-level positions. They are difficult to get, but this is where you manage your connection. So I'll give you an example. The LinkedIn day, the gentleman, his name was Richard, forgot his last name. The same thing, he told me I had applied before, and I said, well, what major, I go, send me a resume. He sent me his resume, and I told him, okay, remind me on Monday to reach out to Ophelia, who handled the internship. So he actually messaged me on LinkedIn on Monday, like, okay, I'm reminding you. Well, I pinged the person, and I said, hey, I go, Richard applied before, he's got a really strong background, very personable. Like, I was looking how he's interacting with the students, doing it just like yourselves. But what impressed me the most was the fact that he was talking to everybody at the table. He shook hands with people. He was very engaging. And so I recommended him. And then Ophelia's like, she goes, yeah, let me see what I can find for him. So what I told Richard was, okay, I did the introduction. She acknowledged the receipt of your resume. Now the rest is out of my hands. I go, now you just got to pretty much figure out what's going to happen. But I do that for people that, number one, they've expressed the interest, and I believe that they're really going to go out of their way to be successful.
Alrighty, with that, we are at 12:40. So thank you so much, Monica, for coming out to speak for us.
Thank you.
For those who are in person, please, final reminder, scan in. We would love to show ASI that we have a lot of people here. This is actually a really, really big in-person meeting. So
Really?
yeah, so thank you all for those who came out. We really appreciate it. Please feel free if you don't have class immediately after, Monica, will you be hanging around or
I'll be staying.
ask your own questions? So you don't have to. But for those who are on Zoom, we will be ending the meeting now. And still, again, thank you for those who came online. We really appreciate
You're welcome. Good luck.
your attendance.
Can I get your last name?
Raffety. R-A